Mysterium de Sympathia. Salve aeterum. Welcome. Hello again. So, I'm going to ask a very simple question to get to what my philosophical background is and why I personally think it's important. I'd also like to say very clearly for the record that I am not an authority, that everything I say is experiential. I may have opinions, but it's experiential. And I'm often just talking to myself. I use the inner language that works for me. So, how do you act on it? Quote, how do you act on it? Unquote. That is the question I ask of any of the philosophies I engage in. I'll start by saying my background is interest in occult Western esotericism as well as Eastern esotericism. The word occult means hidden. I've always thought it was so funny that there are so many little documentaries. If you're a kid from the 70s and 80s, especially during the 80s, you remember there's all kinds of documentaries about anyone who's exploring an occult path is doomed, leading down a path of self-destructive behavior. The funniest thing is, have you ever met anybody that this has happened to? The other funny one was, they would always say, well, at first they started off with nature magic and Wicca or whatever it is, but then they knew the real power came from the devil, the devil, the devil. None of it is true, even though I have known people that are self-proclaimed, Satanists. Most of them are atheists and don't believe in anything but some bit of dark theater. But a true esoteric journey is just like a true life journey, or a true occult journey is just like a life journey. Yeah, there's going to be things that are hard. That's because life is supposed to be hard. That's how we learn. So somewhere in their occult practice, in their magical journey, just like in life, bad stuff might happen. Well, guess what? That's just life. As soon as something turns south, some of the so-called religious leaders are like, I told you that it must have been the dabbling around with tarot cards that you did. That's why your life is going south. Think of actually how pathetic that sounds. It's a completely undisciplined statement with zero research behind it. A real spiritual journey, in my opinion, involves with alignment of the I am. In Latin, it's sum. In Hindu, it's Advaita, Vedanta, if I said that right. In Judaism, it's Yahweh. In Buddhism, the five Shandas. Carl Jung, psychologist, the famous psychologist, talked about the conscious, unconscious, subconscious, and the connected one, the social universe. Some modern practitioners came about to basically, in my opinion, do the same thing that the ancients did, and one of them being the Monroe Institute. And I very much am interested in that sort of thing, of taking spirituality and making it scientific. And there you are. I view magic as a science. Very simply. An art and a science. I always thought was a good way to put it. And the Monroe Institute came up with almost military-like scientific program for meditation and spiritual practice. And the CIA studied it. It was called the Gateway Project. For those interested, there are Gateway Project meditations on YouTube. I would recommend finding ones where the stereo effect on the headphones is operational, because it's based in part on sound and binaural beats. So I just wanted to make a video briefly discussing what my philosophical backdrop is, and to make crystal clear that I am not an authority. If I sound authoritative, it's because that's how I talk to myself. It's dark motivation. It's the dark motivation side of what I'm doing. because I'm talking to myself now, and in the past I'm talking to the version of myself that completely fell apart and everything I had was in a plastic bag or two, which things are going much, much better now, thank you. In fact, I got a new job today. In future episodes, I'm going to be perhaps a bit more esoteric. I'm going to discuss the Stoics, some Eastern philosophy that influences me, as well as some debates historically. I find these things fascinating. But again, whatever we study, whatever we look at, all comes down to a series of very, very, very basic questions. How do I act on it? How does this make me more effective? How can I use this then to help myself and others? Mysterium de Sympathia, bit of an amalgam of Latin and Greek. I do study language a little bit. I am only fluent in English, but I do study Latin and Spanish. I take phrases and write them down 100 times on a piece of paper to remember them. So I'll end with this. Gratias tibi ago. Thank you all.